Today we're going to be talking about PvM in RuneScape geared towards the newer players or the returning players with a focus on necromancy. A lot of people came back into RuneScape to play necromancy and they're trying to figure out how to go about it. A lot of the guides are a little bit more high level, and I wanted to cover just a few quick things that would be able to help you start learning how to get back into the game, start playing with necromancy, and learning the skill, having fun, and starting to be able to kill some bosses. At this point, I've had quite a few people ask for tips and tricks on bossing and how to use necromancy with the abilities and interface and setup. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that a little bit today. First of all, not necromancy related, but in general, you see here that screen for mine looks a little bit different than what yours will. I'm not going to go into a real in-depth how to do everything with an interface, but basically hit escape on your screen and you're going to see edit layout mode. Click on that and there will be advanced options. Here you'll be able to go through and choose everything that you want on your screen. You can choose and drag around how everything will be here. So as you can see, we have the buff bar on the left, the debuff bar on the right, just above the action bars. So that way, if you're killing a boss, you can look and you don't have to move your eyes so much, and you can see the buff bar and debuff bar separately, and you can still see everything else on your screen where they're not in the way. Also, I shrunk the game view down, as you can see, to a smaller section here. That way, you're not getting cut off by having ability bars and everything else. If you don't have ability bars set up like this already, there's a lot of ways to do that. You can set them up however you want, but in terms of that, I would look at the action bars here, and then I would go through and add those action bars. That's really helpful so that you have so many more abilities here on your screen. The next step there is to keybind those abilities. So you can see how my ability for Conjure Skeleton Warrior is Q. Well, how do you do that? You right click, customize keybind, and then you can choose Q. Then as you can see here on the screen, I've done that for quite a few abilities, and this is quick because now all you have to do is click Q, and all of a sudden that ability happens, and I have a Skeleton Warrior. Then I can click Q again, and the ability works. So this is really helpful. This is something that you will want to try to start learning how to use and get used to pushing some of the buttons with keybinds. Somewhere that's comfortable for your hand to get started, and then you can always optimize from there. I have a lot of keybinds here. You don't have to have this many, especially to get started, but it is enjoyable to do that. So after some time of optimization, you'll add more, and you'll find that it's helpful to add more and more abilities. There are many other things, and we're not going to have time today to dive into every possible area of PvM, but I will touch on a few things that I think are helpful. One is archaeology. Archaeology does help PvM because it actually has a very nice ability, which is Relic Powers. If you have the 99 cape, then you can go ahead and change these at the bank by right-clicking on the cape and picking Relic Powers. If not, then go to your journal and choose Teleport. Okay, once you're here, go to Manage Powers at the monolith. Unless you're level 120 Archaeology, you probably won't have 650 monolith energy, so you may not be able to have the same relics that I have here, but Fury of the Small, the top option, is a great choice no matter what. And you can also consider Berserker's Fury and Blessing of Het. The reason that you would want Berserker's Fury and Blessing of Het is because these have a lower cost while providing great benefits. Because the Berserker's Fury gives you more damage the lower your health is, that can be very helpful as you are trying to do more damage to the boss. And Blessing of Het will give you more healing when you are using the food and potions, such as those Ceradon brews in my inventory. There's many other relics that you can use, but I would recommend checking out the wiki for the options that you want to use, or trying some yourself and figuring out what works best for you. For me, I prefer this setup right now, but I do have 120 archaeology, and that's why I can also have the conservation of energy here, which is super helpful. So outside of relics and the interface, another thing that I wanted to touch on is auras. So auras are over here on the setup. And if you're looking at the aura managements, you can see that there are quite a few. What you can do here is click here, look at combat because we're doing combat, and you can see I have a few on cooldown. You do not have to have all auras, but it is very helpful to have multiple auras in case you want to have multiple hours in a row of bossing. You want to be able to switch back and forth, or if you're switching from one boss to another, you may need one aura for one and a different aura for someone else. One thing that I would definitely consider is inspiration. This is helpful because you actually gain more adrenaline when you attack, and this is a very, very good aura to use. Another one that I recommend getting is Vampirism, and that actually heals you as you do damage, which is great. So it helps you along with Soul Split to heal back up. Penance is nice when you are doing Slayer or something. I don't usually use it when I'm bossing, but it is helpful if you seem to be running out of prayer points. Another one here, Aegis. This is really nice. It only lasts for 30 minutes, but it does shield some of that damage for you. So if you find that you're taking a lot of damage while you're fighting a boss and you can't eat enough to keep up with the damage, then this may be something that's really helpful. A boss that this would be really helpful with would be Raziel. And then this is one that I use quite a lot here. Basically, you are just getting a flat damage buff while you are fighting anything. So I use this pretty often at something like Arch-Glacor or Zamorak and many others. And as you can see here, there are ways to reset the aura, and it will tell you down here what you'll need. So you can see, okay, I want to reset the aura. This is not a high enough tier. So you'll have to go and find the one that is a high enough tier. And how do you get these? Well, if you're bossing and you are completing Reaper assignments, you can get them that way. Or go to War's Retreat by clicking the teleports. Talk to War with the shop button. And you'll see that there are all sorts of upgrades and unlocks that you can get. Here's the Vampirism aura that I mentioned. And then there are also consumables. So here are aura refreshes. And for example, if I wanted another one, I would just click buy. You can right click and see how many you want. And that's all it takes. So this is a really helpful
we've now touched
way
on
to do that.
a few different areas.
If I wanted to, I could reset that aura right now. Another area that I think that's really helpful is gear and weapon perks. Now, I know that not everybody has the tier 95, so I went ahead and put on some tank gear as well, and you'll see that it's not just the tank gear, but on there, I also have Impatient 4, Invigorating 4, I have Relentless 5, Biting 3, and on my weapons, I have Aftershock, Ruthless, and on the Soulbound Lantern, I have Precise 6 Genocidal. So these things are additions to the gear. If you just buy the gear and put it on, you won't have these weapon perks or these armor perks. So all you need is an augmentor. You augment the gear, and then you can go ahead and create the perks and put them on. Let me know if that's something that you want to learn more about, and I can go through more of a specific guide on how to make augmenters, how to put perks on gear. That's all with the invention skill, and I can dive into that in another video if you think that's helpful. I understand that not everybody has top level gear, so I did put on some tank gear. I put on the Blood Amulet of Fury, which I would actually recommend using an Essence of Finality. But if you don't have that, you could downgrade to something like a Blood Amulet of Fury, which is still helpful. And you want to make sure that you probably have something in every slot. You also don't have to have a Reaver's Ring, even though it is helpful. So you could have something like Luck of the Dwarves or many other rings. So it just depends on the money that you have to work with to spend on gear or the items that you can get from drops from bosses as well. So now that we've talked a little bit about gear, weapon perks, armor perks, archaeology relics, auras, interface, I want to dive into a beginner boss that I think is helpful for you guys to learn. So here I'm going to grab some food. So as you see, I'm not grabbing sharks or anything like that. I am using green blubber jellyfish because it does not take away your adrenaline. You see here, it does not take away adrenaline and heals 500. So that's super helpful. We need an overload as well. So we'll grab one of these guys. So here, this adrenaline crystal is very nice, so you can start the fight with full adrenaline. And Arch-Glacor is what I would recommend to start with. So you can see going through the portal, this is a very quick way to get there. And as you can see here in the setup, there are different abilities. So you can turn these on and off and practice the abilities as you go. You'll be able to learn how to prayer flick. You'll also be able to learn how to use defensive abilities, move around the map while doing damage, learn how to deal with multiple boss mechanics while you are going through the fight. So you can turn these on and off as you want, and you can learn how to deal with things one at a time, and then you can turn them all on together for more of a challenge. And then if you want even more of a challenge after that, you can enable hard mode, and you can start at 0% and work your way up through the enrage as you improve. And the drops typically get better and better as your enrage and your streaks go up of kills without dying. As we dive into an example kill, I'm going to have Flurry on so I can talk about prayer flicking, as that's a very important part of bossing. And as you see, before we dive in, because we're using Necro, we do have Ectoplasm. You don't need a Power Burst of Vitality for this, but I have it in my inventory. A Super Restore is great for prayer. I also have some items that are nice to have, but not absolutely required, which is an Excalibur. That enhanced Excalibur, if you right click it and activate, gives you health. The Ancient Elven Ritual Shard is also helpful because it gives you prayer over time. You can just buy this one, and it's about 14 mil. Again, it's optional if you don't have the extra 14 mil, but it is very helpful overall, and I use that in quite a few places. So I would recommend saving up and getting something like that. There's also Weapon Poison. There are some bosses that are poisonable, others that are not. Because this boss is poisonable, you can bring Weapon Poison and Cinderbane Gloves. Cinderbane Gloves do cost a little bit more, about 80 mil, but they are helpful, so you can save up for that as well. I do have a few other items here, which we'll talk about real quick. Ceradon and Bruise. As you see that this does reduce your stats, but it does not drain adrenaline. And instead of eating a shark, which would drain adrenaline, you would want to sip a brew, which gives you 1,000 health and doesn't take away that adrenaline. And the whole point of that is if you are overloaded, your stats are increased and they will not decrease by 4 while you are healing. Another item is vulnerability bombs. Just click this and it will create vulnerability on the target and you will do more damage. Not required as you're learning, but as you are looking to optimize and speed up kills, they are really helpful. And then obviously I have the necromancy runes here. So anytime that you're going to be bossing, it's good to understand what your abilities are. So I'd recommend that you read those. One thing that you'll want to do is use darkness, because this will help you evade those attacks. 20% of the time you're going to be dodging attacks, and so you're not going to be taking damage 20% of the time, which is really helpful. So let's go ahead and do that. So as we enter, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to move our screen around. We're going to spawn our conjures, and now we're going to just start attacking. You can use Revo if you want, but you can also just start using those keybinds and attacking. And you see here, as he is using a different ability, we are switching with our keybinds to use prayers to save us against those. So as he moves the arm really high up, you want to pray magic like this. And if he uses the green, then you'll want to use range. And we got that kill very fast. As you get better at that, what you'll want to do is switch over to Soul Split here in between. So you'll click Soul Split, you see, okay, he's going to attack. Let me switch over back to Soul Split. That way you can heal up in between the attacks. And this is something that you'll want to learn as you go. Start out by just changing back and forth slowly. Then over time, go ahead and add in the Soul Split. This is really helpful overall, so that you can do bosses like Jad, who do a lot of damage if you are not praying the right thing. And overall, this will make your bossing experience a lot easier. Go ahead and do this one at a time, using just Arch-Glacor to learn how to use the keybinds, use the abilities, and go back and forth. As you see, I'm really not taking that much damage in the tank armor, and this is a relaxing way to just practice and get it figured out. Like I said, you can use Revolution, and then you don't even need to click all the rest of these abilities that I have set up. All you would really need to do is Prayer Flick, but that is optional for you. And I would recommend slowly working your way towards choosing the abilities a little bit more, but that's something that you'll learn over time. So hopefully this was helpful. Leave a comment for me. Let me know things that you're more interested in learning about, and we'll dive into those specifics a little bit later. But I wanted to go through a quick beginner guide for a lot of people that have questions about basics of bossing, basics of how to set up your screen, what are some of the quick tips that you want to go through, and this should help you on your journey. So I would start with Arch-Glacor, like I said, and then you can look at some other bosses from there. But this is a great boss to be able to learn those mechanics. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, and I will see you guys next time.